Hey there, scrappers and recyclers. Welcome to Shark Scrapper Live, where every week we take a look at what's going on in things like the precious metals market, industrial metals market. We talk about safety, and we explore just everything that's going on in our fascinating world. It is great to be with everybody again. Sorry I missed y'all last week, but that's going to give us our topic for the safety note for this week. So, these things have a way of working themselves out. All right, first I want to say hello to everybody that's already jumped in here. We've got William Wallert, Scrapping Irish, David Fillet. Welcome, everybody. Folks are saying hello. Don't worry, William. It's great to have you back. Things happen, man. And building a garage foundation. Wow, you've been busy. Definitely been busy doing that. Roger at CU Scrapping is in the house. I'm sure we'll have a bunch more folks that'll join us here as we keep going. So, welcome everyone. Ed Weber just joined us. Great to have you here, Ed. It has been a really busy couple of weeks since we last went live with everybody. So, we've got some fun stuff to talk about. Uh, the gold market is where we're going to start, and yeah, we're not exactly real happy with what we're seeing from the gold market right now. Why? Because the gold prices went down a little bit. Now, granted, they didn't go down a lot. We went down 1.85% here for the 3 day period, and for the week, we're down 3.19%. Now, for anybody that shows up that's kind of new to this live stream, I am not sponsored by AppMex. It's just one of the sites that I use when I buy and sell my physical silver and gold. And they have a pretty good website, so I like using their website. It's a great place to buy and sell. No drama, easy business when you're buying and selling physical gold and silver. And I always recommend that folks have a little bit of physical gold and silver, at least some, in their portfolio. So let's see here. We said for the week we are down 3.19%, and we can see here that was we had a few bumps along the way, but it's generally the way things were falling off there. If we look at the month, we're down just a little bit for the month here. Most, it's interesting because most of the month we were actually above the overall trend. So we just ended kind of on a down note there. And then let's just get right over here to the year. This is the good news, right? For the year, we're still up 39.3%. All right, well, let's get over to our trading economics website because that's where we can really learn a lot about what's going on here. So, again, we're looking at the year, and we're going to pop up here and bring up the candlesticks real quick. And then let's see, what are the folks at Trading Economics saying here? Gold fell over 1.5% below 3,270 per ounce on Friday, heading for a 3% weekly decline, second straight weekly loss. And there's actually good news here because the reason why gold is dropping is because global tensions are easing. So investors aren't as concerned as they were. That means that they're not flooding into gold as a safe haven. So the price of gold then starts to go down. So there's a good side to the price of gold going down. Um, a fragile ceasefire between Israel and Iran is held. U.S. Commerce Secretary said trade frameworks are moving along, and U.S. data showed that the core PCE index rose slightly above expectations, consistent with subdued inflation, and that the Fed may take a more dovish approach. So we may see in the future some lowering of interest rates, which can be helpful as well. So all of that leads to the price of gold going down. All right, so now that we're in the candlesticks chart here, let's zoom in on what's going on here. We're going back to March, where we saw gold climbing, and then it started dropping off here around June 16 is when we saw gold start to drop off. And you can see you've got some not huge red candlesticks, relatively speaking. So that means it's not like there was this, free fall kind of thing. It was just a gradual sell off as the investors that had gone into gold as a safe haven weren't there anymore. And so the prices started coming back down again. That's sort of what you expect to see happen when global tensions and things start to ease up. Now, of course, that can always turn around if things go south again. So there's only these things can change a lot, and investors will make some big changes depending upon how events in the world start to play out. So let's take a look here at what are we looking at for the forecast. Well, the trading economic folks are saying that the forecast for gold is going to be going up 3320.81 by the end of the quarter and 3466 and a half ish in the 12-month period ahead. So once again, when we're looking at the forecast, we're looking at this part of the chart right here, and you're looking at this gray line. That's the forecast from the folks at Trading Economics using all of their models and their analysts' expectations. What does this really mean for us when, for our purposes as scrappers? Well, in the electronics market, of course, our boards are valued primarily for the gold content in computer boards. A little lesser for the copper, but mostly for the gold content. So, what this says to me is that probably the prices on places like boardsort.com and your other buyers will probably remain kind of stable, and then maybe start with a little bit of a rise again. Now, why am I saying stable? Well, let's go back here to the 6-month chart. We can see that even though we have a lot of up and down going on here in this 6-month chart, the there's a line right here. Here, let me draw it with a heavier line like this. You can see that right along here, it's it's kind of flat, right, with variations around it. Well, buyers like boardsort.com, they're not going to react to all of that up and down. They're going to say, what do we think is going to happen over the long run? And when they're looking at something like this, they're saying, all right, well, we probably have some relative stability here. We don't need to do anything right away. So they're inclined to leave prices as they are. When we look at the 1-year period, we still see that right here. This is what's been giving us these relatively good stable prices for our gold printed circuit boards and our gold bearing materials. Now we have seen the prices go up here for a while, and that's because the long-term trend has been up. So you combine a long-term trend that's going up and this relatively short-term trend that is stable but has a lot of variation around it, and it's going to tend to prices staying kind of where they are. Now, a lot depends too on contracts and such that your buyers may have. Um, and, some buyers react to more short term influences than others. But I think, you're safe to continue selling your material that you have. If you are trying to build up a nice stash before you sell it, okay, I think you're fine. I wouldn't necessarily say that you have to rush to sell anything because probably not going to see anything happen too quickly. And the long term trend is that it will go up. So you're probably okay to, if you don't have enough material to sell right now, to take a little more time to build up some material that's worth shipping it off to, whether it's BoardSort or whoever you sell it to. Um, If you are a home refiner, well, you just need to decide what you're going to do with the gold that you're acquiring, whether you keep it for something in the long time future or you're going to sell some to build up a cash position, whatever you do with it as a home refiner, that's fine. But if you're in the scrap world and you're selling your printed circuit boards, gold bearing material, you're fine to sell it now or let it uh, build up a bit more. There's no great rush. We're not looking at prices changing real fast, real soon. All righty. So, what kind of comments have been going on here about gold while we've been talking about gold? Let's go back up and see who has joined the show here. We have Electronic Scrapper has joined us. Richard Hulbert. Richard, welcome. Always great to have you. E-Waste Mike is in the show. Scrapping on the fly. How you doing, man? Hope all is good there, bud. Uh, and Richard said he added 3 more grams to his gold jar this week. That's awesome. And he's in no hurry to sell, so that's fine. That is fine. Uh, and let's see, we got Scrapping Irish and Richard are talking about some stuff that went on with their gold drop. That's one of the things that I think is fascinating watching folks that do the chemistry and stuff, trying to figure out, hey, wait a minute, where'd that come from? What the heck is that? Oh, man. So, let's see, what is this? Stalker Rob 20. Stalker Rob 20 joined the house, and he's don't forget to send a like. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Uh, Great to hear, man. Hang in there. Be strong. All right. So, other than talking about some gold drops and what's been going on, not much comment about what people are doing to buy and sell their gold. So we can. We're probably. I can see us. When we get over to Ireland later on here in another hour or so, I can see us chit chatting some about what's been going on with Irish's drops. All right. Well, it is time now to get over to our safety topic for the week. And the safety topic for this week was brought about by last week's, actually, 2 accidents that occurred. One was Mrs. Shark was in an accident, and another one was an accident that occurred while I was in a parking lot in the vicinity of an intersection. And I saw the accident, so I went and rendered assistance uh, to the folks that were in the accident. And so it really it stopped me. It's a great these opportunities are a great thing to stop and say, okay, let's think about this from the what do you do kind of perspective. If you drive an automobile, truck or car, motorcycle, whatever, you will get in an accident. You're it's I don't know what the odds are of not being in an accident, but you will most likely be in an accident if you drive an automobile. Sometimes even if you don't, you could be in an accident, right? As a pedestrian or a bicyclist or passenger. But from the perspective of you're a driver, you're in a car, and you get in an accident, there are a few things that are fundamental to do, to always keep it in mind. And one of the things that you might want to do is just sort of write this down and put it on a big card inside your glove compartment, laminated or something like that. The first thing you do after the accident is stay calm. All right, just take a deep breath and assess what just happened. Ask yourself, am I injured? What is our situation here? Because when accidents happen, they will occur, quickly without notice. Sometimes you're going to see something that's about to happen and you might try to react to it. But a lot of times the accident just happens without, your no ability, without any ability to react. So just take a moment, stay calm, take a deep breath, and assess if you're injured. What is the situation on the ground? Are you blocking traffic? Is it safe to get out of your automobile? Um, what's going on around you? So you assess the situation. Once you've assessed and you've decided that you're not injured and it's okay for you to move around, then get out of your car safely. If you're in traffic, be very careful. If there's debris laying around, be very careful. Um, See if any of the other parties have been injured, and if their injuries prevent or should cause them to not be moved. Um, and then once you've assessed any injuries that may be on the scene, if there are other people around, ask someone to call. In the United States, you would call 911, but call an emergency number so that the police can respond if they need to. Now, in the case of my wife's accident, it was in a parking lot. Uh, the the two cars were blocking one of the lanes of parking, but it's not as if they were preventing traffic flow. And because there were no injuries, there was no need to call 911. So we called the non emergency number for the police department. And I was surprised how quickly they had a police officer respond to the scene. Non injury accident, but a police officer responded surprisingly fast. And that's necessary because you need that police report in order to file your insurance claim. We all have cell phones, and well, all right, most of us, I'm believing, have cell phones. So you'll want to get pictures of the accident. You want to get a picture of the license plate of the other vehicle or vehicles so that if somebody tries to leave the scene, you have a way to help the police track them down. You want to exchange information with the drivers of the other car. And you need all the pictures to document your insurance claim anyway. So, go ahead and take those pictures, get them on your phone, and only do so though if it's safe, right? Don't walk out into oncoming traffic to take pictures, right? Always think about your safety because you're going to be a little bit flustered, you're going to be anxious. So throughout all of this, use a little extra time and thought and think through what you're doing so that you don't get additional injuries or cause additional problems. Don't get in a fight with the other person. Frequently, people will start blaming each other. It was your fault. It was your fault. Don't get in a fight with anyone. It's not worth it. It's not going to help the situation at all. Just document everything that happened. Let the insurance company try to figure it out, or the police officer that responds to the scene will make that determination. Arguing, getting into fisticuffs with somebody from an accident, that's not going to do anybody any good. So just try to keep the situation calm and steady and just document everything. If you have an app for your insurance company on your phone, then you can, in many cases, start immediately filing a insurance claim right on your phone through the app. And that can really save you a lot of time. Depending upon your insurance company and how good they are, you might even have the ability to call for a tow truck through your insurance company app. If you are a AAA member, that's another way that you can get a tow to come and take care of the vehicle. If your vehicle is blocking traffic, then the police will call for a tow truck. That will get a little bit more expensive just because those tow trucks are under contract, but the police need to do that if you're blocking traffic. Now then, in the case of the accident where I was not Mrs. Shark's accident, but the one that I saw happen, the two vehicles had gone off to the side of the road after they hit each other. So I went and made sure that both the drivers were not physically injured. The one driver was still in her car, and she seemed a little bit dizzy and stuff. And so I had suggested that she just stay put in her car. There was somebody there who was getting really upset because they're like, "Yeah, but the car's leaking something. It's leaking something. It's going to catch fire." And so the fluid was coming from the front of the her car, which had been smashed. I went over and checked, and yeah, it was just radiator fluid. And I said, no, 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 that's not gas. It's just radiator fluid. It's fine. Um, it's best that she stay in the car until the paramedics arrive, because you never know if you've suffered a neck injury, and you don't want to be moving around if you have suffered some sort of neck injury, spinal injury. Just, you don't need to get out of that car right away. Let the paramedics come stabilize you if necessary. And then, and when, if the paramedics show up, they'll take care of the injured people. In the case of the accident where I was helping, once the police and paramedics were on the scene, there was nothing for me to do. And I told the police officer, I didn't see the accident. My back was to the accident, so I can't really help you. I heard the noise. That's when I turned around, and the vehicles were already had already collided. So I couldn't help with making a statement of what happened. And then I was, then I left the area because they didn't need another body getting in the way. And so you go through these stages with the accident. The important thing to remember is that your cars can be fixed or totaled, and you get a new car. But your bodies and your body, the bodies of the other humans, those are a little more difficult to fix. So it's a very stressful situation. Try to remain calm. Try not to cause any additional stress or damage, and just deal with it after it's happened. Now, that's one of the reasons why I suggested that maybe you write it down on a laminated card, important things to do after an accident. And that way, when you're a little bit flustered and you're kind of like, just not thinking straight, you can pull out that card, be a little checklist that says, do this, do this, do this. It can be very helpful when you're in a stressful situation like that. All right, well, let's see what you all have had to say about vehicle accidents, because Lord knows we all have to go through them sometimes, don't we? So we're going to go back here to the comments, and we're going to see what's going on here. E-Waste Owen has joined the show. E-Waste Owen, welcome. Great to have you here. Yeah, and for those of you that don't remember or haven't heard, Scrapping on the Fly had a pretty bad heart attack, and he's on the mend here. So we're hoping he gets strong and gets back in the game here. But you be strong, follow your doctor's orders, do what you need to do there, man. Okay. Uh, so William is saying that he just bought an e-waste dismantling machine and e-waste plant. Very cool. Oh man, email me more details, man. I'd like to learn more about that. That is sweet. Um, Mike's Meltdown is in the show. Great to have you here. Ba, 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 ba. So Richard says, when it comes to the accidents, call a lawyer and an ambulance. All right. So, this is one of the things that there's a couple ways to go with this, right? I mean, certainly if you've been injured, you need an ambulance, you need the paramedics in the ambulance. And when you call 911 and tell them about the accident, they'll respond with law enforcement and paramedics. So you don't need to call the ambulance. As far as calling a lawyer, um, there are times when you will need a lawyer. Let's face it. But you don't need to do that right away at the accident. I mean, you can, certainly you can. And Lord knows there's plenty of what here in the United States we call ambulance chasers. So lawyers that they would literally follow the ambulance to a scene of an accident and, sign up one party or the other to try to sue people involved in the accident. Um, but there's a lot of lawyers that make a lot of money helping people collect damages and stuff after accidents. Here in the United States, we're a very litigious place. Everybody sues everybody at the drop of a hat for no reason whatsoever. But then again, there are very good reasons why sometimes you need to have legal counsel. So, for instance, if you've been in an accident with a large truck, construction company, a cement company, a tractor trailer for one of the big haulers, they have well-paid lawyers on their team. They're going to try to not compensate you properly, and that's when you do need to have a lawyer on your side. So there are going to be circumstances, especially here in the United States, when you will need a lawyer to help you get the compensation that you should get after an accident. Sometimes people even need a lawyer to get their own insurance company to do what they should do because sometimes insurance companies they don't want to handle things the right way. Um, but you don't really have to call that lawyer right away at the scene of the accident. Um, you certainly can, but it's not one of the highest priorities. Uh, bu- 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 uh, so William is saying that if you wear a seatbelt, you tend to go up and over no seatbelt. You go down and under. Sometimes injuries come out 24 hours later. Um, okay, yeah, that could be too. I have heard similar kind of things about how spinal injuries can cause that to happen. Um, so yeah, and again, I mean, I just put it. My seatbelt is on by habit. I don't even think about it. I get in the truck and I immediately put the seatbelt on. So you always want to have your seatbelt on anyway. So that's very, very important. Um, yeah, Roger's saying never say you're sorry or I didn't see you or anything that equates to an admission of guilt. Isn't it a shame that we have to worry about the litigation side of something bad like this, right? It's a sad thing, but there's a lot of truth to that. If you say you're sorry, I didn't see you, then if it ends up before a judge or going to court or something like that, then the other person can say, oh well, you said you didn't see me, so you're at fault. In the United States, some states are what we call no fault, which basically means you don't go to trial. It's just both parties share the blame. uh, Not true of all states, and even then, there can still end up in court. So, yeah, there's laws that you need to tend with there. Mike's got a real good point here. Dash cams can be very useful these days, and a dash cam is relatively inexpensive, pretty small device that you can put in your vehicle, and it can be very, very helpful. So, dash cam is definitely something that you should think about getting for your car or your truck because it really can be a useful thing. Scrapping on the fly says he's never been in an accident. Well, there you go, man. Glad to see somebody uh, has made it through life without an accident so far. And Richard Holbert said he bought a dash cam, but he can't format it yet. His truck has lane keep assist, and he has to turn on his blinker to change the lanes. Oh, that's interesting. We had, well, my wife's car has lane assist, but you can override it. It'll let you know, um, and it got kind of really annoying. She didn't like it, so unless we're doing a long trip, I just turn it. We just turn it off because it's kind of annoying. Um, So yeah, those lane assist devices, they can be a little. You gotta really understand what the lane assist is doing and how it can affect you. Um, so on my wife's car, we turn it off unless it's a long trip where we're going to be spending hours on the road, and sometimes you want that extra help to keep you in straight and narrow. Simple Man's in the house. Welcome, Simple Man. Great to have you here. Uh, and and Richard said his wife doesn't drive. She hasn't been in an accident. Okay, good. Uh, yeah, so accidents, they're a reality of life in our modern age, and you deal with them as they occur. You hope you never have one, but you expect, but you will. And so you just prepare for it and be ready for it, and you do what you have to do. Um, had a few accidents in my day. My wife's had a few accidents in her day. We just keep moving on. Um, and you just if you get injured, you got to get fixed, and if your car gets destroyed, you get a new car. That's part of the reality of accidents. It's also why it's really, really important that if you have scrap stuff in your vehicle, I've done talks about securing the load in the back of your truck. Um, and there's another reason for securing the load in your truck, because if you do get in an accident and you've got a load of scrap in the back of your truck or your SUV, if that mass shifts suddenly, that could be bad for you. So that's another thing to think about too. How could that load of scrap shift in the back of your vehicle if you get in an accident? Everyday Solars, welcome to the show. Great to have you here. Always good to see you in the crowd. All righty. Well, time to get on to another one of our favorite metals. It's it. I mean, I'm always fascinated about why so many people just absolutely love copper. I mean, it's just. I mean, it just seems like of the various metals that are out there, there's a lot of people that just love copper. Maybe it's because it's a pretty metal. The color. Maybe it's something about the color that is satisfying to us. Um, Maybe because it's an approachable, value added kind of thing. I don't know, but it's always amazing to me how many people just absolutely love copper. And right now, there's some real good reasons as scrappers for us to love copper, like $5 a pound or more love of copper. So we're back over here on the Trading Economics site, and we see that copper futures rose above $5 a pound, gaining roughly 6% for the week. And what's driving this internationally is that their shippers. You have companies in the U.S. that are buying up as much copper. People are pushing copper into the U.S. as fast as they can to get ahead of any potential tariffs or other trade barrier actions that the current administration may impose after they get done doing their copper section investigation, 232 investigation. And so a lot of copper is being pushed into the United States to front load the demand signal. And that means that there's a shortage of copper out, in Europe and Asia. So that's driving up the prices of copper. So, you can see right here, we're looking at 1 year's price, and we see that copper had gotten up here at 5.2 ish. So we're not at the all time highs recently, but we're still doing really well, because we're over five. So that's a real good sign. And if we turn on the candlesticks and we zoom in here to this, let's see, let's start out here June 13ish, and we can see nice green candlesticks as copper just kept going up and up and up and up. Now, I want to draw your attention to this thing right here, this symbol right here. You see that thing that looks like a cross? So in the candlestick chart world, that's called a doji. That might indicate that the prices are going to start coming back down again. But we're not going to see a lot of huge variations here. Generally speaking, copper's going to probably keep climbing. But this may be a short term. Like you can see, you see whenever you get these things very tight, they the price can reverse direction for a little bit and then come back up again. So don't be surprised if you see copper come down a little bit more here again. But overall, we're doing really well for copper. Let's go back to our line chart and let's pop over to the forecast. And that is a very nice forecast for copper right there. Boy, howdy, look at that. That is really sweet. We're looking at copper getting up in the 5.5 range. So the trading economic folks are saying that copper is expected to trade at 519 by the end of this quarter and 5.56 in the 12-month time ahead. So that's good for us as scrappers. Our yards will keep prices steady or going up, depending upon the windows of their contracts. And we have time to accumulate some copper and sell the copper that we have. So, if I was going to make a recommendation to somebody on what to do about copper, I would keep selling your lower grade copper bearing products like your number 3 insulated, your number 2 insulated copper wire. Um, and maybe if you have the ability, if you have the space and you don't need the cash flow, then maybe hang on to your number 1 insulated and your number 1 and 2 copper and just see if some of that if that price doesn't go up a bit more that you can take advantage of. um, because there's some good potential upside here if you have the ability to hang on to copper for a little bit, maybe ride that out some. Now, if you're in the business of scrapping, for as a small business sense, and you need the cash flow, you can't hang on to things as much. You got to keep the cash flow moving. So in that case, try to keep behind your strategic reserve. You know that I always say keep 10% as a strategic reserve for when you get these really good price hikes. Now it's funny because a year or so ago I would have said keep that 10% until copper crosses 5 and then sell it. And so, you know, now we're saying, well, we've got that, we crossed 5. So did you sell your strategic reserve? Did you sell all your strategic reserve, or are you keeping some behind trying to press for this 5.5? But that's the beauty of a strategic reserve. It's not intended to, you got to sell it. It's intended to take advantage of higher values where you can. And so you meet your cash flow demands, you keep a little bit of strategic reserve behind, and when you get some good prices, then you can sell it and get the cash that you need to do other things in your business. So real good game going on for copper right now. As scrappers, we got to really be loving the copper markets right now, and we definitely should be taking advantage of these copper prices. And I know that there's going to be folks out there that are going to say, "Well, I'm hanging on to my copper," you know, and that's fine. I'm not telling you don't hang on to your copper. Just remember that whenever you're hanging on to it, you risk missing that high point, and not getting the money that you want to get for it. So just keep if you are hanging on to your copper, make sure that you're also paying attention to the pricing, because if you're hanging on to it and it starts all of a sudden dipping over on the other side, well, then you may want to sell it so you don't lose out too bad. All right, well, let's see. What's everybody talking about with copper? Or as our friend from England likes to say, copper. Not really a comment about copper, but MCM 262 is saying he's looking to send his first Gaylord in, and love that video that I did this week about how to do LTL shipping. That's awesome, man. I'm glad that that was useful and helpful, and hopefully you'll be well taken care of with your first Gaylord. So Here's what to expect though. You're going to be nervous as all get out. You're you've got $2,000, $3,000 worth of stuff in that Gaylord box, and you're like, oh man, what if it gets lost? Or it can be a little bit nervous the first time or two that you ship a big Gaylord box full of your e-waste, and you got all that money in one package. So just remain calm and follow the processes that I talked about in the video, and you'll be fine. Don't forget to insure the Gaylord box. Okay, let's see. Mike's Meltdown is saying copper, highest value on non precious metal found everywhere, at least in small quantities. Yeah, I know. Isn't that the interesting thing about it? But copper is also a really useful metal, too. So, it's got a lot of demand signal, which is another one of the reasons why it's so valuable. Everyday Solars is saying because it's so beautiful. Exactly. It really is a beautiful color, isn't it? I mean, there's something about that color of copper that can be fascinating. Get it all shined up and man, it really can be beautiful. Um, and Richard's saying the copper's everywhere. It's a scrapper's bread and butter. He's got about 45 pounds to melt down and purify from e-waste. Um, Mike's having a little bit of fun with the beautiful comment. Yeah. Now here's the other thing. The scrap value of copper is, of course, very different than the spot value. Um, the when we talk about these spot value prices that I show you from, say, trading economics, that's industrial grade copper, not number one, number two, those kind of things. So, your copper the price for copper that you're getting at your scrapyard is very dependent on the grade of the copper. And there are some differences. There can be big differences, and as we can see right here, scrapping on the fly, it's got 230 a pound. That's what half, less than half what the spot price is right now. So you've got to pay attention, and understand that. And you all get it. You've been in the scrap game for a long time. You understand. But sometimes people that are new to the scrap game, they don't understand. They'll get to the scrap yard and they're like, "Hey, wait a minute. What do you mean you're only paying me two something a pound? It's five something, right here. Let me show you on this, So you just got to think, just we know that we understand. We've been scrapping for a while. We get it. We understand that. And Sixth Street Garage is in the house. Welcome. Great to have you here. North Star Stacker is doing well with copper at 6+ Canadian. Very cool. Very cool indeed. And Daniel's got 325 for copper in Oakland, California. Oh man, I haven't been to Oakland in forever. Can't remember the last time I was in Oakland. I was still in the Navy the last time I was there for some reason. Uh, yeah, and Richard's talking about, because Richard refines his precious metals, he's extracting and he's recovering and refining his gold. There's a byproduct of that is going to be copper. Scrapping Irish, same thing. And so, they have copper that they're going to be able to get at some point when they, in their recovery process. So, uh, Solars, everyday Solars is saying, nah, it'll be higher in 20 years. I'll hedge that bet. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. You get some of these folks that, and it's funny because, well, I don't funny, but a lot of us, we get these pickups and we go and it's a shed full of material, or it's literally a barn full of computers. And um, it's the son or the daughter of the person who said, "Oh, I'm gonna collect all this stuff, and that's gonna be my bank account in the future, and I'm hedging against the value of this in the future." And then they die, and the son or the daughter, the kids, the family is left with this barn full of computers, or a shed full of bins of scrap that they don't know what to do with. So there is also that thing that we need to think about. We may understand how to get the value out of that material, but will the people that we leave behind know what they should do with it? So if you are collecting up computers and gold bearing material or copper and those kind of things, make sure your kids or your wife or somebody understands where it's at, where the secret location is, and how to get the money out of it. Otherwise, you've done it all for nothing. Um, Daniel's talking about the collapse of the penny. Will Yeah, it'll be interesting what happens with in the U.S. when the penny is when we're done with the penny. We talked about this a little bit in a previous live stream. Pennies that are older than 1982 have copper, uh, and then then 1982 there was a transition, so you need to know what mint and stuff like that in 1982. But you're going to have all these copper pennies, and if the penny is no longer a legal tender, well, some people will turn in the pennies to get the cash value in other, in the account. So the banks are probably going to end up with a whole lot of pennies. But some of us have collected up pennies for the copper. And then once it's not legal tender anymore, then you should be able to melt it down and have the copper. Simon Keltmaster, welcome. Great to have you here. Always good to see you in the house. Um, And E-Waste Owen is saying that copper and gold are the only two metals on the periodic table that have no other metal with the same hue. Hence, people like them so much. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. You think about it. Silver and platinum and aluminum, they're all kind of like the silvery white metals, but gold and copper, I mean, those are just beautiful colors. Just beautiful colors. Uh, well, Richard, all right. So this is where, actually, in some cities, this is a real problem. So there are some locales where people will take down the streetlights to get the wire and stuff like that. Plus, some of the in older cities, the street lamp post itself might be copper or brass. And so, you could end up with people literally stealing the lamppost and stuff. So yeah, that's a real issue there in some places. And Everyday Solars has her plan. She's gonna turn the copper into bars, and that way the kids can sell the bars. So yep, it's good to have a plan. Like I say all the time, before you remove a piece of scrap, before you remove a component from a board, understand what you're going to do with it. And if you're holding on to copper, understand why you're holding on to copper and what you're going to do with it. E-Waste Solars has her plan. I mean, Everyday Solars, E-Waste Solars. Everyday Solars has her plan. She's going to turn them into bars, melt them down, and then the kiddos will be able to sell the bars and make money. Daniel says he's never going to die. Okay. Uh, Not a realistic plan there. I hate to break it to you, but it's going to happen to all of us sooner or later. Uh, Now, there's a pleasant thought. They might they might sell those bars even sooner so they can put her in a nice home. Oh man, that one cracks me up. And Simon is getting 760, 780 a kilogram for number one, 120 kilogram for regular aluminum, stainless. He's giving us the prices that he's getting at the Ukraine scrapyard. So very cool. Um, it's always interesting to see these prices from around the world and and see what's going on. So Simon, it's great to see you again, man. It's so awesome to have you back in the stream and air with us. So we hope that that you'll be able to keep up being with us because we really enjoy having you here. And Richard is piling up his computers and is teaching his son the process. Um, Told his daughter where the cash is hidden. Uh, doesn't know if he'll be around long enough to process it, but at least the kids will. So there you go. And Simon is saying tantalum has color. Well, everything has color, right? Technically, everything has color. So yeah, yeah, tantalum's got some, and the I I have some tantalum capacitors that I have been, sometimes you just get like these tantalum capacitors that's on a low grade board. It's like, well, I might as well take them off and then sell them as tantalum capacitors. So, and board sort of buy tantalum capacitors. I There was a group in Florida that was buying tantalum capacitors, but they never got back to me. I tried to reach out to them on multiple occasions. I really would have enjoyed selling it to them, but yeah, they never quite got back to me. So, uh, and Simon's talking about the heat sinks on some of the CPUs or heat spreaders, as some people refer to them. That they're copper too, so there's another source of copper for you. And Richard said that his wife doesn't have a clue about the money that's involved, and he plans on keeping it that way. You know, I got to tell you, I uh, Mrs. Shark has been on this thing where she's been watching a lot of these murder mystery kind of shows and whodunits and these law kind of things. And she also started rewatching Dexter, and I keep thinking to myself, this woman she's retired Navy. She's been to combat. She's a chef, and she's watching all these shows about how to off your husband and not get caught. And so, sometime if I don't go live for several weeks on end, you might just want to make a phone call. Just joking. Just joking. I'm not worried about that one at all. Hey, before we wrap up here, there's something that I want to bring to everybody's attention. Some of you make videos, make your own videos. If you use it, no no everyday solars, that is not a miniature statue of me. I think she's either talking about the GI Joe doll or the shark. I'm not sure which one. Uh, oh, that's funny. But if you use CapCut, to do your editing, I urge you to go take a look at the terms of service, the new terms of service for CapCut, because they they recently put in a change to their terms of service, and it's risky for those that are using CapCut. Essentially, what CapCut has done, and for those of you that don't know, CapCut is owned by the same people that own TikTok, and so they changed their terms of service that you will now grant to them and their affiliates and their agents and their partners and third parties royalty free, fully transferable rights to your product, to you, your likeness, what you make, the videos you edit. If you do it on CapCut, then they can do whatever they want with your videos. And, so they could sell it, they could re edit it into other material, they could sell it to a third party, and you'll get nothing for it. It's royalty free. So they can take your product and do anything they want with it. And you have no recourse because it's in the terms of service. This is a recent change to the terms of service. And because I'm not a lawyer, I recommend that if you are using CapCut, that you take a real hard look at the terms of service and um, make sure that you understand what's going on. Now, there are a bunch of people out there that are saying that they're leaving CapCut because of this. They, it's too risky. They don't want CapCut to take their material and do stuff with it. They are afraid of the potential liabilities that could incur. Um, and it gets kind of convoluted because, so let's say you're using music from a source that you've downloaded and paid for. You put that in your video, and then CapCut goes and uses that section of a video, but they haven't paid for the license for that music. And so the people holding that license then try to sue CapCut, but because of the terms of service, you have indemnified CapCut, which means you're going to get sued. I mean, this thing can get out of control fast. So if you are using CapCut or you know someone who's using CapCut, I highly encourage you to have them read those terms of service, get on YouTube and look at the videos. As I've seen at least a half a dozen where folks are talking about what's going on. There's a few of them that I've seen where the person that's talking about this is actually an attorney, in people's right, the market attorneys that protect musicians and artists' rights and things like that. So you want to take a look at that and make sure you understand what's going on, and if necessary, shift to some other tool. Shift away from CapCut to some other tool. Um, Again, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm going on what I've heard people talking about. But when I hear this many people get this upset about something that's going on, it just makes me feel like I probably ought to bring this to folks' attention because this could get ugly for some folks. So you definitely want to pay attention to that. Haven't seen it with any of the other services that are out there. I do my editing on a software called Canva and Camtasia. I haven't had any trouble with either one of those services, and nothing in their terms of services is anything like this. You may want to take a look at that. All right. Well, it is about time for us to head across the pond to Ireland, where we can either continue these discussions, talk about other stuff. We never know what's going to pop up. You never know who's going to show up on the panel. They're sort of the regular troublemakers, but sometimes new folks show up. It's always a lot of fun when we're over there. So I will look forward to seeing you over in Ireland. Now, if you have autoplay enabled, you don't have to do anything. When I shut this down, you will be automatically redirected if you have autoplay enabled, to Ireland. If not, just go on YouTube, type in Scrapping Irish, and join us over in Ireland. I will see you all across